Welcome to Unpopular Opinion. This is a show where I take a film that is pretty much universally loved and explain the reasons I don't like it. Though my intent is not to bash the film, but to simply state the pros and the cons of the movie that ultimately led to my dislike. Now before I begin, please remember that this is my opinion only, so don't get angry or upset over what I have to say. Now let's begin. The film for the day is John Wick 3. And before we delve into it, let's take a journey through the John Wick series, starting with the original. The first John Wick was a tightly wound package of perfectly choreographed action sequences, beautiful cinematography, and a simple yet emotional story that grabs you immediately. The film has a cast of fun characters, and the mysterious world that they inhabit feels alive and credible. Also great is the fact that John Wick is a legend that is so deadly that even mob bosses whimper at the mention of his name. Overall, the first John Wick was pretty much a masterpiece and never needed a sequel. Then, a couple years later, we indeed got another film in the series with John Wick 2. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't stoked. The film as a whole is great, but it does have problems that most sequels have, where they feel they must go bigger and more elaborate. Something modern films really need to stop. Bigger doesn't always mean better. Now, the amazing cinematography and action sequences are still there, and the added world building by bringing in the high table of assassins and an entire wing of merchants was a welcome addition. Now to its cons. The big bad in this film is more of a cardboard villain and is pretty forgettable, but he is still charismatic, so I'll give the writers that. The henchmen this time around have a bad habit of simply being fodder. Unlike the original where they had precise, almost dance-like movements during the shootouts. In this film, at times they can be seen just walking up and basically standing there waiting to be shot. It's very distracting. Other issues are removal of fear that John instills in every enemy. This time around, everyone is just ready and willing to take on John. And then there's Ruby Rose. Lastly, here we are at John Wick 3, Parabellum. After 2, I was still pretty excited to see part 3, in hopes of a grand finale that would tie up the John Wick trilogy. Oh, how I was wrong. I forgot a studio will attempt to make a franchise out of any property until it's the worst thing ever. John Wick 3 does start strong with an amazing opening 20 minutes of him fighting and killing using books, knives, horses. Unfortunately, the film is 2.5 hours long, and boy, do you feel it. The plot is pretty pointless. The beginning sees John on the run, trying to clear his name as he's being hunted by assassins. The finale sees John betrayed and on the run while being hunted, meaning the whole second act was pointless, and we are treated to a god-awful cliffhanger ending that sequel baits hard. Also lacking are fun, memorable characters, as everyone introduced is there to promote further appearances, aka establish a franchise, without a hint of natural progression. Next up is our villain, the Adjudicator, who is a no-nonsense and completely wooden character, and could have had an actor change at any point and no one would have noticed. Thankfully, her right-hand man Zero, played by the always fun Mark Dacascos, is a blast as a deadly assassin who just happens to be a John Wick fanboy, even training his men to respect John. Also fun are his two right-hand men, being played by the final bosses of both Raid films. As before, the cinematography, action, and music are all phenomenal, and they did fix the henchman issue from part 2. Unfortunately, this film's story is a drawn-out mess of new, uninteresting characters, a series of globe-trotting set pieces that are pointless, and an ending that is quite irritating considering there was a solid chance to end the series on a high note. Now, with a 4th film due out next year and talks of a TV show spinoff, let's see where the future holds. This has been Unpopular Opinion. I'm your host, CJ, and please don't hate me for the next episode.